Hello, welcome to the Sideboard here at the StarCityGames.com Standard Open in Cincinnati, part of the SCG Tour, brought to you by Ultimate Guard. I'm Nick Miller alongside our Season 1 champion, Todd Stevens. How you doing, sir?
I'm doing great, Nick. How are you?
Pretty good. You got to pick up all your awesome cards and your set of Hour of Devastation, so you're ready to go for the release week. Standard tournament here in Cincinnati. And you're playing a 5-color energy Planeswalkers deck. We'll cover all the bases, so those at home who have concerns about what's going on in this deck, it's got everything.
Yeah, I don't even know how you name it. It's basically just teamer based. I don't have any plains or swamps or anything, but I can use Oath of Nissa to be able to help me cast both Niwel Bolas, Godpharaoh, and Nahiri the Harbinger. So I have a little white, little black, but it's mostly all teamer.
Right. So we've got kind of the energy base tying it all together.
Right.
We've seen this before, but you have elements of the beatdown and elements of the value going as well, because you have, starting with Aether Hub, you have Servant of the Conduit, your Long Tusk Cub, and your Bristling Hydra, and then Whirler Virtuoso and Rogue Refiner kind of tying it all together. So you have your card draw, your value stuff, but also your beatdown plans. And your deck can operate in both ways, right?
Yeah, it's basically the definition of mid-range. Like I can be the aggressor, I can be the control deck. It can really just adapt to whatever I need. First week standard here, I don't really know what I'm going to be playing against. So I just kind of have a pure mid-range deck that I can kind of morph depending on what I see from my opponent. I started off with just more of like a high-end deck whenever I was making this with Tom Ross, that we had Hour of Promise and Ulamog in here, also like with the energy cards. But I'd always lose to Long Tusk Cub and Bristling Hydra. So I was like, why am I not just playing those cards also? So I just threw those in there too. And we have just a good mix of everything.
Right, and it's interesting you said you're kind of bringing the mid-range deck to the format, because I think first time in a long time of new standard formats, this one is the widest open they've been. Going into the last one, we knew Mardu Vehicles was a thing. Before that, Mardu and the Aetherworks decks were a thing. So like all of these decks have existed. Now, the format really is open. Yeah,
which you don't usually have with an 8th set. Usually when you have an 8th set, you have so many cards, they just kind of add on to existing decks, and you just go from there. But with all the recent bannings and the new cards, we don't really know what's going to be happening. So the format's wide open, so I just kind of want to have a deck right in the middle that can play whatever game plan I need to with that specific match.
All right, so outside of the energy things, we have just value creatures, Tireless Tracker, Glorybringer here. And then you have your removal spells of choice, Harness Lightning, Abrade, new card from Hour of Devastation, gets to blow up artifacts or 3 damage. A lot of people said this card could potentially replace Harness Lightning. You're playing it alongside it.
Yeah, I have 4 Harness Lightning, only 2 Abrades. I haven't played Abrade too much, and I don't want to have too much removal because of Oath of Nissa. But the reason why I really have it in is for the Monument decks. I would struggle with, I want to be able to kill both Monument, I want to be able to kill Monument in the main deck. And then it can just also deal with problematic stuff like Winding Constrictor, all those things from the green-black deck. So I wanted a split card there.
Right. Then we have the big Godpharaoh himself, Niwel Bolas. This is why we have, the 5-color element of the deck.
Right.
Have you got to play it?
Yeah.
And has it done what you've needed it to do?
Okay, I haven't been able to play it yet today. You saw it on camera. I had it in my opener, and I just didn't get to 7 lands. I had one Oath of Nissa where I took Chandra Flamecaller instead of a land when I only had 4 mana, and I had a huge curve anyway. I should have taken the land, but I wanted to take the Planeswalker. But anyway, I've actually been really impressed with Niwel Bolas. At first read, it looked like the card wasn't very good for its 7 mana, but the ability that's really important is actually the +1 ability that most people kind of gloss over, the have your opponent exile 2 cards from their hand. By the time you're playing Niwel Bolas, your opponent probably only has 2 cards left in their hand, so you just get rid of both of their cards, and they're suddenly top decking against a Planeswalker that has 8 loyalty. Even if they have a creature out, and you don't really have much else of a board, it's pretty easy to have Niwel Bolas control it from there.
Right, I think that ability gets overlooked a lot, just like, you have Chandra in here as well. The other 4, loyalty Planeswalker, or the 4 option Planeswalker, one of the abilities always kind of gets overlooked. Chandra's +2 mana kind of flew under the radar. People realize, okay, this can be abused as well. Mind Riding an opponent each turn, if that's where the game's at against a control opponent or something, is very powerful, going along with being able to destroy creatures.
Yeah, I mean that's perfect in not only against control but just against other mid-range decks. Because it's automatically a 2-for-1 there, and then they have to expend usually a lot of resources, or maybe even make unprofitable attacks to try to get your Niwel Bolas off the table, and and if you just kind of get rid of all their resources, you probably have another card or two in your hand. And so I've been just really happy with Niwel Bolas just +1ing.
All right. How about the other Planeswalkers? You have both flavors of Chandra here, and then Nahiri as well.
Yeah, Nahiri was just a real late addition to the deck when I was just decided to add in some more Oath of Nissas and just put Nahiri in. I didn't actually test Nahiri before this, but it deals with so many cards that are problems. Really large creatures are a problem, even though we have Niwel Bolas. And then also the enchantments are a problem. Annoying Procession, Hidden Stockpile. There's so many good enchantments. Cast Out, Stasis Snare, all that kind of stuff. So I just wanted Nahiri just to be able to deal with all that.
All right, and then Chandra, we saw this pop up when the Aetherworks decks were going as something to deal with zombies. I assume it goes in there as well as against the Monument decks.
Yeah, and it's a fast clock against maybe ramp or something. I've never been sad to have a Chandra Flamecaller in my hand. It's really good at pressuring other planeswalkers. Just suddenly, like they may have like their own Chandra at 6 loyalty, and you can suddenly attack it. It's always good. And so I replaced the 4th Chandra Torch of Defiance with 1 Flamecaller.
All right. Going over the sideboard here, now we have your control elements. You got your counter spells with Negate. You have your more sweepers, whether it's Radiant Flames. Then we got to make the call out to Hour of Devastation, the actual Hour of Devastation here. And that's a concession to the gods, basically.
Yeah, it's real tough for me to deal with Ronis. I do now have Nahiri. Before, like whenever I had that in, I didn't have Nahiri in my deck, so I do have now a way to exile them. But yeah, the gods, also Selfless Spirit with the Monument decks, and just maybe the green-black energy decks. Like there's other decks that can go wider and go a little bit bigger, and so I just wanted that card as just a nice safety valve.
Okay, I got to ask you about this. 3 copies of Fevered Visions. This is something we see out of the Emerge decks, maybe the Blue-Red Spells decks.
Right.
What's it coming in here for?
It's my way to fight control, basically. I'm a pretty big fan of Fevered Visions, and I will actually bring it in other mid-range matchups also, especially if I'm on the play, and I don't think they'll be used to it. So maybe against another team or energy deck, I'll just surprise them when I'm on the play with some Fevered Visions. I've brought it in against Emerge decks before that have lots of card draw. So basically, the more card draw my opponent has, if I'm on the play and I want to get under him, I'll bring in some Fevered Visions.
All right, you got your other trackers in here as well, because any green deck basically goes to more trackers post sideboard.
Yeah, that's the last year of Standard. No matter what green deck you're playing, you have trackers in your sideboard.
Okay, more Magma Sprays here to deal with the little creatures.
And Champion Wits is a big one that you really need Magma Spray for.
That's a card that's really popped up. A lot of people seeing it in the Teamer Emerge deck. All of these Emerge decks want to be playing this.
Yep.
Taking care of it on the front end and back end with 1 mana.
Yeah.
Very efficient.
Champion of Wits is just so good. It's had there's Blue-Black Emerge now, Blue-Red Emerge. There are just so many Emerge decks now with it that you need it.
All right, wrapping things up, another Nahiri, and then Appetite for the Unnatural, just your catch-all artifact enchantment removals.
Yep, I had 2 Appetite of the Naturals in the board till last minute. Whenever I added the Nahiri to the main, I was like, I'll just put another one on the board. Again, I just want to kill those enchantments. All
right, well, we're 4 rounds in. You're undefeated so far. Of course, you came off with 2 buys.
Yep, haven't lost a game yet.
How does the format look? How does the deck feel in the format?
Well, so far, it's exactly what I want it to be. It has just tons of options everywhere. All these cards, all these planeswalkers with 4 abilities. I just have so many options with my games, and so whatever my opponent's doing, I can react accordingly, and it's where I want to be for the first week. I don't think it's like a perfect deck. I don't think I'm going to go 15-0 or anything like that, but I think it's good enough with enough choices that I can hopefully make my way to top 8.
All right, awesome. Well, thanks for joining me here on the sideboard, Todd. We wish you the best of luck after a great Season 1. We'll see how Season 2 goes for you. So for Todd Stevens, I'm Nick Miller here on the sideboard. Stay tuned to StarCityGames.com all weekend long for the action here in Cincinnati.